Today we're loading Windows on non-qualified hardware that's not supposed to run. Hey there, everybody, this is Tom from Tom's Tech Show, and today I'm going to go over, I've got this laptop here. This is a Dell XPS. It's, nice. It's got, aluminum kind of hard casings and stuff on it. Just a good system, and it has a TPM chip in it, so it was version 1.2. I did the mechanism to update it to TPM 2.0, so I'm like, okay, good. And then I go to run Windows 11 to try and do setup. It says your hardware doesn't match the requirements for Windows 11. I'm like, wait a minute, I upgraded the TPM. Well, the CPU on this thing is one generation too old. And I'm like, you're kidding me. This is crazy. So I found a script and everything on the internet, of course, where you can find everything. And lo and behold, we now have a Dell XPS that is running Windows 11. And it runs extremely well. I mean, it runs fast and everything. It has the TPM 2.0, so other than the processor being just a little bit old, it's all really good. All is running really good. So, all right. Well, so out on the internet, there is a tool. It's in GitHub called MediaCreationTool.bat. And what this does is it allows you to set the flags. You can go through, there is a Microsoft kind of way to go through and run regedit and go through and set up the different flags for loading it in kind of an experimental mode on your own system without all the requirements. But that, I think you still need the TPM chip. I don't think it bypasses that to do the Microsoft way. So this way bypasses basically everything. It still wants a multi-core processor, and it wants 4 gigs of memory. So you need to know those two things. It is going to check those, and those it does not bypass. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. Okay, so we download this set of little batch files, and that gets us a quick little folder here called MediaCreationTool.bat. Now, and it's extremely simple to do, right? MediaCreationTool.bat is here, batch file. We just double click it, comes up, starts running the script, and it asks me, what do I want to load? So we're going to click 11 for Windows 11, and then you can create an ISO, a USB, select in the Media Creation tool. So we're going to create an ISO, but first I did this already, but I'm going to come here and just go change that to Win11 so it doesn't start to delete or overwrite my ISO. Because it would click create ISO, and it immediately jumps into another little script window here, and just boom, it grabs the Media Creation tool, loads the Media Creation tool, and just starts going. It just starts running. In a few minutes, it'll say that it's ready and downloading, and does this all automatic and creates this. So we're going to kill that right now because I've already done it. And so let's quit setup here. And what will happen at the end of our setup is we'll get a window that looks like this that says you've got an ISO that's ready to be burned to CD. Well, we're not going to burn it today. What we're going to do is we're going to use Oracle VirtualBox to create an instance to run it. So we'll click New here. We're going to say this is a Win11 test. We're just going to be testing it. And we're going to say they don't have Windows 11 in this list here, but we got Windows 10. Now here's where we need to tell it we need 4 gigs of memory, and then we can just add a virtual hard drive somewhere. That's fine. And we also need to kick the hard drive up to 100 gig instead of 50 gig. If you do it 50 gig, it's going to go, nope, don't want to load. Okay. So now we've got that. We can jump into the settings here because we need to tweak some other things. So we need to go to System, and we need to tell it dual core processor. If you don't have the dual core processor things ticked up, it won't load. Okay, so we go to Storage, and we're going to add a hard drive. Choose a disk file. Let's go to Downloads, and here's our Win11 ISO open. And we're going to go OK. All right, now I click Start on this virtual machine, and it will grab a bunch of memory and start loading. So here we go. We're getting to the install. Now this machine, this virtual box here, only has a dual core processor and 4 gigs of memory. It does not have a TPM chip. It does not have, a newer processor or anything that's in it. So it's just your basic stuff. So here we go. Next, install now. Give it a second to figure out what it's doing. And I do also recommend that when you're installing, so we're going to install Windows 11 Pro, is to come down here to the network settings here and disconnect the network adapter. That forces it into creating a local account instead of an internet account. So if you're doing this on the home version, you won't be able to do that. Home version cannot continue. Absolutely 100% cannot continue without the internet. It basically breaks the whole thing. Okay, so then we get here. We just the same thing. We're already past where it's going to check that it's going to meet all the requirements. It's actually way back here. If you get to this window, you're past it. If you're in this window, I think you're good once you get to here. But once you get past this point where it gives you this message of, applicable notice and terms, and then go next and get to where you can put it on a hard drive, you're past the check. And so I thought, okay, so you can install it and get it up and running just like normal. So we're going to power this machine off. So I thought to myself, what if I have it Windows 11 installed and I have some other settings? So I came here and I set the processor back to 1 CPU, and then I set the motherboard down to 2 gig. Okay, these, this should make it, so that it doesn't even boot or do anything. And I thought, so that should be, that should stop it, right? So I boot this thing up, and it gets going, and it actually starts and runs. So the huge multiprocessor thing, the needing 4 gigs and stuff of memory is only Microsoft's kind of their own qualifications. I guess they want to make sure that the system runs in a smooth enough on any computer so that Microsoft doesn't look bad like they're creating crappy software, which, okay, that ship has sailed. But it does run, it does come up. We do get into Windows. We do get the VM running with 2 gigs of memory and 1 CPU. And once it gets up and running, it does take a little bit of time. I mean, just like old Windows machines, we used to have those old Windows 7 machines that were, you could barely buy. They were like $150, $200. They were super cheap, and they had like, a gig of memory and a super slow processor and everything. They just took forever to get going and stuff. And that's a little bit how it acts. I mean, right here, we're going to be, kind of heavy on CPU while that's coming up and getting all the services and stuff running. But it still has some memory. I was able to, go here and open Notepad and open Paint and open sticky notes and open Maps, and then open Windows Security, and then open a browser, a couple of browsers. I mean, it's going to chew on it, right? It's only got 1 CPU, so it's going to take a while to chew on all that stuff and get running. But once we got everything going, it did seem to run okay. So they're updating Maps. So we're getting a little slow now. Now that I've forced it to open all these applications all at once on a slow machine, and it's really killing that CPU there, but it does work. So once you get, if you have a computer that, so this would be something that you could try. I may actually do this. Take a hard drive, plug it into a computer that's got all the RAM and right CPU and everything, and then get Windows installed up to the first reboot. Then after that, take the hard drive out and put it into a different computer, and then boot it and see if it starts. Because it seems like the only place that Windows is doing the check for, do I have TPM? Do I have enough memory? Do I have the right brand and type and new enough processor, is when that one step in setup. After you get past that, I mean, this thing should be invalid. This thing shouldn't run, at all. Windows should come up and say stop. Don't go any further. But it does. Now, granted, the registry settings are there for it to do some bypasses, but even with the registry settings there, initially it was not allowing me to go past the memory or the CPU when I tried to boot this up and boot off the ISO to get the installation going. When I initially did it, it wouldn't let me until I gave it enough CPU and enough memory to get it installed. But now it seems to just run. I mean, granted, it's running a little bit slow right now. I mean, we're in heavy CPU load land because everything's been cranked down, and we got the memory all maxed out. It's like, I mean, you really wouldn't want to do that. Open all these apps and everything else. I did load just load one browser and let it run and stuff, and it seemed to be pretty good. The crazy thing is, once I get things going and was running things, when I loaded Microsoft Edge, the thing just took a dump. I mean, memory went maxed out. I mean, it's like Chrome used to be, I guess. The Edge says it's so much faster, so much better, but once I loaded Edge, it just really dove over a cliff running. But it's working. I mean, it runs that way, So I don't know whether I think it's Microsoft trying to create the illusion that Windows 11 runs, quickly and smoothly, because we've made the requirements so hard that, I mean, and granted, how many PCs today, have 4 gigs? I mean, not many, but it's just kind of cutting out all the people who don't want to upgrade their computer and stick with Windows 10, right? So, or even some people with Windows 7 still, which I have, hanging around and works perfectly fine. So I do have a video on how to keep your Windows 7 up to date. There's a company out there that's kind of reverse engineering the Windows update patches and then applying them and creating them so that they'll run on Windows 7, so you can keep your Windows 7 box. I'll put a link to that below in this video as well. But there we go. We've now installed Windows 11 on hardware that is not meet the requirements, just like this laptop right here. Doesn't meet the requirements, but it works. So, and that laptop's working really well. I mean, it's, not that old. I think it's like 5 years old, something like that. I mean, it's in perfect condition. I mean, this is a Dell XPS. There's not even a mark, on the cover anywhere. I mean, even on the, the back, this thing hasn't been dropped or nothing happened to it. So it's, a perfectly fine laptop to run Windows 11 on. So anyway, there you go. Windows 11, I'll leave links to the script, and I'll leave links to that other Windows update thing. If you happen to have Windows 7 and you don't want to upgrade, I did do that video and I mentioned it, so we'll put that link in there. All right, there we go. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about this whole setup and how that all worked, just leave a comment down below. Thanks everybody who has been watching my videos and doing things and commenting on them. It's been really good to interact with everybody. I appreciate that, and that's what this channel's for, to be able to interact and help people. I've been doing this for so many years, and a lot of people get wrong information and Not that my information is right all the time, but I think I got some experience, that I can share. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care.